I never thought a routine gym session could turn into one of the most memorable days of my life, but here we are. You know that moment when you're grinding through your last set, trying to squeeze out those last few reps, and suddenly a voice cuts through the clanking of weights and the hum of treadmills? That was me last Tuesday, flat on the bench, struggling to lift what felt like a mountain. I was just about to give up when this guy, the first, barely knew, one of those gym regulars who's always there, always focused, offered to spot me. Now, I'm not the type to usually ask for help. I like to think I'm pretty self-sufficient, especially when it comes to the gym. But this time, something made me say yes. Maybe it was the fact that I was genuinely stuck, or maybe it was the way he smiled when he said, "I've got you." Either way, that little interaction turned out to be way more than just a favor with the weights. His name's Alex. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that kind of easy confidence that's not tooly but just comfortable. We'd exchanged nods and the occasional "what's up" before, but never anything beyond that. He's the kind of guy who looks like he's been lifting since forever, but also has this chill vibe that makes you feel like you could talk to him without feeling like a total newbie. Honestly, I wasn't expecting much beyond the spot. Maybe a quick good job and then back to my corner of the gym. We were at this slightly run-down but packed local gym I'd been going to for months now. It's the kind of place where the machines are a little beat up, the weights have random chalk dust everywhere, and the music is a weird mix of 80s rock and current pop. Not fancy, but it felt like home. I usually keep my head down, zone out to my playlist, and get my workout done. Socializing isn't really my thing, especially when I'm trying to hit my numbers. So there I was, benching what felt like my limit, when Alex walks over and casually says, "Need a spot?" I tried to play it cool, but inside, honestly, I was relieved. He positioned himself behind the bench, hands ready, and as I pushed the barbell up, I could tell he wasn't just there as muscle support. There was something else going on in his eyes, something like curiosity mixed with a quiet kind of interest. After a couple of reps, as I racked the bar, I caught him glancing at me in a way that made my skin tingle. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little thrown off. I caught my breath, gave him a half smile, and said, "Thanks, man, I think I'd have dropped that otherwise." He laughed, a low, easy sound, and said, "Anytime." That's when things started to get interesting. Instead of going back to his own workout, Alex hung around, leaning against the squat rack, and started chatting like we'd been friends forever. We talked about everything from favorite protein shakes to bad gym playlist songs. Somewhere between sets and laughter, this casual gym interaction was becoming something different. By the end of that session, I wasn't just thinking about gains or reps anymore. I was wondering if maybe, just maybe, Alex had noticed way more than just my bench press that day. After that, I found myself looking forward to gym sessions a lot more than usual. Not because I was suddenly obsessed with lifting more or setting new PRs, but because I wanted to see Alex again. It's weird how someone you barely know can just make an ordinary place feel charged. Like the air shifts a little when they walk in. The next time I caught him, I was doing deadlifts, and he was warming up nearby, stretching his arms over his head. I wasn't about to ask for a spot again, since deadlifts are kind of a solo thing, but he caught my eye and gave me a nod. I nodded back, and then he surprised me by walking over. "Hey man, you're killing those bench numbers lately," he said, flicking a wry smile my way. "You ever think about mixing in some overhead presses? Could help with your shoulder stability." I laughed, appreciating the unsolicited advice. "Maybe. I usually just stick to what I know. Helps me feel in control, you know?" He shrugged like he understood perfectly. "Yeah, sometimes it's easier to stick to the familiar." We ended up talking for a bit, not just about workouts, but about random stuff. Movies, music, even those weird anxiety things we both admitted we dealt with. I realized Alex wasn't just some gym guy putting on a friendly face. He was genuine. And honestly, that caught me off guard. I had never really talked to anyone at the gym past surface level. It felt kind of great. One day, after our usual workouts, Alex surprised me again. He said, "Hey, want to grab a coffee? There's this spot a couple blocks away that's way better than the usual chain stuff. I hesitated for like 2 seconds, then said yeah. I wasn't expecting much. I mean, coffee with a gym acquaintance, but staring back, I could see the same little spark in his eyes I'd noticed before. We walked out together, the late afternoon sun warming the city streets. The coffee shop was small, with mismatched chairs and a cozy vibe. We grabbed 2 lattes and found a corner table. It wasn't some big romantic setup, just 2 guys chatting over coffee. But I could feel something shifting. Alex told me about his job. He's a graphic designer, which explained why he always seemed so creative with his gym playlists. I shared a bit about my work, stuff I usually don't bring up. The more we talked, the more I realized how easy it was to be around him. No pretense, just real. At one point, I caught him watching me with this quiet intensity. It wasn't the kind of look you get when someone's just being polite or friendly. It was different. I felt my heart skip, and a weird nervous energy buzzed through me. "So," he said, breaking the silence, "you ever been on any dates with guys from the gym before?" I stammered a little. "Honestly, no. I usually keep those worlds separate." He smiled, kind of sheepishly. "Yeah, me too. But maybe that's dumb. Maybe we should stop overthinking it." And just like that, the conversation took a turn. It wasn't just about spotting each other on lifts anymore. It was about spotting each other in life. Over the next couple weeks, we started hanging out more outside the gym. Sometimes it was just coffee or grabbing brunch on weekends. Sometimes it was movie nights at his place. We shared playlists, swapped stories about the most embarrassing things that happened to us in high school, and slowly, the walls I'd built around myself started to crumble. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I showed up at his apartment unannounced. He opened the door in those comfy sweats and a t-shirt that made me do a double take. There was something about him in that light, relaxed, unguarded, that made it impossible not to smile. We ended up cooking dinner together, fumbling a bit in the kitchen, me trying to chop onions without crying, him cracking jokes about my lack of skills. It was simple and perfect. Later, we sat on his couch with the windows open and a cool breeze drifting in. Our conversation slowed, and there was a silence that felt full, not empty. I looked over at him, and he met my gaze without flinching. "You know," he said softly, "I wasn't just spotting your bench press that day." I laughed lightly, heart pounding. "Yeah? What were you spotting then?" He reached out and took my hand. "Maybe everything." I don't know if he was nervous or just being honest, but that moment felt like the start of something I hadn't dared to hope for. Because sometimes, the guy who spots you at the gym is the one who ends up spotting you in all the ways that matter. And honestly, I can't wait to see where this goes. His hand in mine was warm, steady, like it was exactly where it was supposed to be. A quiet kind of intimacy settled over us, like we didn't need to rush anything or fill the silence with words. I squeezed his hand back, feeling more connected than I had with anyone in a long time. "I'm glad you said that," I said, voice a little shaky. "Because, honestly, I've been wanting to tell you the same thing." He smiled. That soft, genuine smile that made me want to freeze the moment forever. "Good, because I was starting to think you were just being polite with me." We both laughed, the kind of laugh that shakes off nerves and awkwardness. Then he pulled me a little closer, and before I even had time to think twice, our lips met. It was gentle at first, then deeper, like we were both learning what this could be. When we finally pulled apart, I felt lighter, like a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying had lifted. "So," I said, trying to sound casual but failing spectacularly, "does this mean you're officially my gym bro and my boyfriend now?" Alex grinned, eyes sparkling. "I'd say that's a pretty good deal." The next few weeks were almost surreal. Our gym routines stayed the same, but everything else shifted. Suddenly, the way he looked at me during sets wasn't just friendly concern. It was something more. I caught him watching me from across the room, and when our eyes met, there was a silent conversation happening, something electric and new. One evening, after a crazy long day at work, I texted him to say I was crashing at his place instead of heading home. When I got there, he greeted me with a hug that felt like coming home. We kept it low-key, ordering takeout, binge-watching some dumb show, and just enjoying the comfort of each other's presence. Halfway through the night, I found myself confessing something I hadn't told many people. "I've always been kind of scared to put myself out there," I admitted, tracing patterns on the couch cushion. Not just with dating, but with anything. I didn't want to get hurt or rejected. Alex listened, really listened. Then he reached out, his fingers brushing my cheek gently. I get that. I've been there too. But sometimes, the risk is worth it. His words hit me harder than I expected. Because with him, the risk didn't feel like falling into the unknown alone. It felt like stepping into something worth fighting for. That weekend, we decided to hit the gym together, not just as workout buddies, but as something more. We warmed up side by side, sharing laughs and small touches that sent electric sparks through me. When I got under the bench press that day, he was right there, spotting me like before, but this time, there was no pretense. After my set, I looked up at him and said, "Thanks for always being there." He winked. Always. But it wasn't just the physical spot anymore. It was the emotional one too. Having someone who believed in me, who wanted to see me succeed, both in the gym and in life. One day, we got caught in a sudden summer rainstorm going back to his place. We laughed as we ran, trying to dodge puddles, but failing miserably. By the time we got inside, soaked and breathless, I realized how natural it felt to just be myself around him. No masks, no walls. He handed me a towel and looked at me with those warm eyes. "I never thought I'd find someone like this at a gym," he said softly. "You're different." I smiled, feeling the same way. "Yeah, me too." That night, as we lay tangled up in his sheets, I thought about how strange life was. How a simple offer to spot me on the bench press had turned into the start of something I never saw coming, but had been waiting for without even knowing it. There were still moments of doubt, sure. Times when I wondered if this was real or just a fleeting thing. But each day with Alex made those doubts smaller, quieter. He became the person I wanted to share my mornings with, the one I texted when something funny happened, the one I looked forward to seeing the most. One afternoon, we were at the gym, winding down after a solid session. I noticed him watching me again, that same look from the very beginning. I caught his eye and nodded, feeling that familiar flutter in my chest. So I said, leaning in slightly, "What's the plan? Are we just gym bros forever, or is this officially something else?" He smiled, mischievous but sincere. "Definitely something else. But you gotta promise me one thing. Anything. Never stop spotting me. In every way." I laughed, feeling like I'd found not just a workout partner, but a teammate for whatever came next. And honestly, I'm all in. After that conversation, things between Alex and me settled into a rhythm that felt both new and comfortable. We weren't those overly sappy, practically glued at the hip couples you see on TV, but there was this easy, quiet understanding. Like, we didn't always need words to know where we stood, and that felt refreshing. One evening, a couple of weeks later, Alex invited me over after our workout. "I'm trying to perfect my chili recipe," he said with this hint of a challenge in his voice. "Care to be my official taste tester?" I laughed. Official? I didn't know I signed up for a culinary degree. "Don't worry. It's just a casual thing," he said, flashing that grin that made me forget whatever stress I'd brought with me. His apartment felt like a cozy refuge from the chaos outside. He'd got these fairy lights strung up in the living room that gave everything a warm glow, and the scent of spices and simmering tomatoes filled the air. We cracked open a couple of beers, and as he cooked, I watched him move around the kitchen with this casual confidence that made my chest tighten in a way I couldn't quite explain. So, we talked. Not just about the usual gym stuff or work, but about the weird stuff. Past relationships, family drama, the kind of dreams you don't always say out loud. I told him about the time I'd once horribly embarrassed myself trying to impress a guy in college, and he shared a story about his own cringeworthy first date. It was the kind of conversation that made you realize you're not so different after all, even if on the surface you seem worlds apart. After dinner, we settled on the couch, bowl of chili between us, and flicked on an old movie neither of us had seen before. As the credits rolled hours later, I felt this quiet contentment settle in. My head rested against his shoulder, and he didn't move away. Instead, he slipped his arm around me, and I felt that signature warmth spread through my chest again. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. A week or so later, I found myself wrestling with something I hadn't expected. Jealousy. Not the dramatic, possessive kind, but this dull ache when Alex mentioned a girl from work who'd invited him to a party. I tried to shrug it off, but it nagged at me. Was I overthinking? Was this a sign I was getting too attached? I decided to bring it up, probably in the least graceful way possible. We were sitting on a bench outside the gym, cooling down from our workout, the sun dipping low behind the buildings. So I started fiddling with my water bottle. "You're really gonna go to that party with her?" Alex looked at me, eyebrows raised. "Yeah, why? You nervous?" I swallowed. "I guess a little. I don't know. I guess it just caught me off guard." He smiled softly, reaching over to bump my shoulder. "Hey, I get it, but I'm here with you, not her." That simple reassurance was like a balm. I laughed, feeling a little ridiculous for getting worked up over nothing. "Yeah, I guess I'm just not used to feeling like this." "Neither was I," he said, eyes shining. "But that's what makes it exciting." That night, I lay in bed, thinking over everything that had happened since that first gym session. How a simple "I got you" had turned into this complicated, beautiful mess of feelings. I was learning to trust again, to open up, and to hope. A few days later, Alex surprised me with a little invite. Feel like a mini road trip? I found this hiking trail not far from here. Fresh air, no phones, just us. I wasn't sure if I was ready for that kind of weekend, but his enthusiasm was contagious, and I said yes. The trail was quieter than I expected, just the two of us walking, the crunch of leaves underfoot, and the occasional bird call breaking the silence. We talked about everything and nothing. About childhood dreams, about what we wanted out of life, about fears and hopes. And as we climbed higher, the city sprawled beneath us, looking tiny and far away. At the summit, we sat side by side on a rock, catching our breath. Alex reached out, taking my hand in his, fingers lacing together effortlessly. "I didn't think I could feel this close to someone so quickly," he admitted. "Me neither," I said, squeezing his hand, "but I'm happy about it." He turned to look at me, serious for a moment. "I want to keep seeing where this goes. No rush, no pressure, just us." I nodded, heart pounding. "Yeah, just us." That day felt like a turning point, like we were stepping off the treadmill of casual gym acquaintances and onto a new path, one that maybe, just maybe, would lead somewhere unexpected and good. Back in the city, life kept happening. We kept spotting each other, not just on the bench press, but in all the little moments that built something real. In late-night texts when one of us was feeling down, in shared playlists for early morning runs, in the way Alex always remembered my coffee order before I even said it. One Thursday night, after a killer workout, he surprised me by pulling out a small box from his gym bag. I raised an eyebrow. "Open it," he said, grinning. Inside was a pair of matching gym shirts with our initials stitched on the sleeves. "For the best spotter and lifter duo," he said. I laughed, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the post-workout flush. "You're ridiculous." "Maybe, but I think we make a pretty good team." I couldn't agree more, and honestly, I'm kind of excited to see what kind of gains we make together, both in and out of the gym. Wearing those matching gym shirts became our little inside joke, but also something that felt surprisingly meaningful. Every time I saw Alex walk in with his initials stitched next to mine, I felt this quiet pride, not because of the gym gains, but because of what we'd built together. One afternoon, after a grueling leg day where I was definitely questioning my life choices, Alex caught me struggling to re-rack the barbell. He stepped in, steady hands on the weights, and said, "You're not alone in this one." I laughed, out of breath. "Thanks, man, but I think my legs are gonna hate me tomorrow." He grinned, wiping sweat off his forehead. "Welcome to the club." That day, as we walked out of the gym together, the conversation drifted toward plans for the weekend. I mentioned a new burger place I'd been dying to try, and without hesitation, he said, "Let's do it." Nothing like celebrating leg day with some serious calories. That's how Saturday started, us wandering through the city, sneakers still dusty from the gym, sharing a messy, greasy feast on a rooftop with a view of the skyline. We talked about everything and nothing. Childhood memories, dumb mistakes, favorite bands. There was a comfort between us that felt like home. But as the sun began to dip, casting golden light over the buildings, a thought hit me, one I hadn't really allowed myself to face fully. "Hey," I said, voice quieter now. "Can I ask you something a bit personal?" He looked at me, curious. "Do you ever worry about what comes next? Like, after the excitement of everything new, how do you know if this is real?" Alex tilted his head, considering. "Yeah, I think about that sometimes." I shrugged, trying to play it cool, but the nerves were there. "I guess I'm scared, not of being with you, but of losing myself in the process. What if I get too attached and it all falls apart?" He reached across the table, taking my hand in his again, fingers intertwining. "I get that fear. I have it too. But I think real things are worth the risk. And I want to figure that out with you, no matter what." His words stuck with me long after that rooftop dinner. They weren't just empty promises. There was something in his tone that felt honest, raw, and steady. The following week, our gym sessions started to feel like more than just workouts. They were moments where we checked in on each other. Physically, emotionally. When I was feeling off, Alex noticed without me having to say a word. When he had a rough day, I found myself wanting to be there, even if it was just to listen. One particular evening stands out. I was struggling through a set of pull-ups, muscles shaking, when Alex slid next to me and said quietly, "Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about progress." I dropped down, catching my breath. "Yeah, easy for you to say." He smiled, eyes shining. "I'm serious. Progress." Together, that night, as we left the gym, the air was crisp and sharp with early fall. We walked side by side, the city lights flickering to life around us. Suddenly, he stopped. "Hey, there's something I want to show you." Curious, I followed him down a side street until we reached a small, tucked-away art gallery. It was one of those places you'd never notice unless you were actively looking for it. Inside, the walls were covered with vibrant paintings and photographs. Alex led me to a corner where a series of black and white photos were displayed. He pointed to one of them, a close-up of hands gripping a barbell, veins taut and skin glistening. "That's mine," he said, voice soft. "What?" I blinked, surprised. He nodded. "I do photography on the side. It's my way to capture moments that matter." I looked closer and saw another photo, a pair of hands, different from the first, but holding the barbell just as tight. "Is that?" I hesitated. "Yours." He smiled. "I took it during one of our workouts a few weeks ago. I felt my cheeks flush. I didn't know you were into this." He shrugged, a bit shy now. "It's not something I usually share, but with you, it feels right." That moment, standing there surrounded by his art, feeling this new layer of him unfold, was another step deeper into everything we were building. Outside the gallery, the night was quiet. Alex slipped his hand into mine again, and I realized how much I'd come to rely on his presence, not just for support during reps, but for all the little moments that make life feel less overwhelming. We talked more about dreams that night, about where we saw ourselves in a year, 2 years. It wasn't about grand plans or pressure, but the hope of building something lasting. As we walked back to the subway, I felt this mix of excitement and calm wash over me. Maybe the gym had been where we met, but this, what we were becoming, was so much bigger than that. And honestly, I'm ready to see how far this goes. Because sometimes, the best spotter isn't just the one holding the bar, it's the one holding your heart. Weeks passed, and the gallery night felt like this unspoken milestone for us. Suddenly, Alex wasn't just my gym bro, or even my boyfriend. He was becoming the person I wanted to know in every way possible. I found myself curious about things I never thought to care about. His art, his family, his dreams. And he seemed just as interested in the stuff I kept tucked away, the quieter parts. One don't usually share. One Saturday morning, after a late night of watching old movies and talking till way too late, I woke up to the smell of coffee and something sizzling in the kitchen. I rolled out of bed, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, and found Alex humming to himself while flipping pancakes. He caught me staring and grinned. "You look like you could use some breakfast." I smiled back, feeling this flutter in my chest. "Yeah, I could." We ate at the small kitchen table, sunlight streaming in through the window. It was the kind of normal morning I never thought I'd have, and it felt perfect. After breakfast, Alex said, "Hey, I thought maybe we could check out that new climbing gym that opened downtown." I figured it'd be fun to try something different. I hesitated. I'd never done climbing before, but the eagerness in his eyes was infectious. "All right, you talked me into it." That afternoon, we found ourselves strapped into harnesses and staring up at walls that seemed impossibly high. I was nervous, my palms sweaty, but Alex was patient, guiding me through the basics with his usual calm confidence. "Remember, it's all about trust," he said, clipping the rope. "Trust me, and trust yourself." As I started climbing, the fear mixed with adrenaline, but Alex's voice behind me was steady, encouraging. When I reached the top, he was there, waiting with a proud smile. "You did great," he said, pulling me in for a quick hug. I laughed, breathless. I might be hooked. Over the next hour, we took turns climbing and belaying. It was a new kind of challenge, one that wasn't about brute strength, but balance and trust. Each time I looked down from the wall, I saw Alex's face watching me, not just spotting me physically, but emotionally too. Afterward, we grabbed smoothies and sat outside on a bench, the city buzzing around us. I couldn't help but reflect on how different this felt from the gym. At the gym, we pushed each other physically, but here, we were pushing boundaries, learning to rely on each other in new ways. "I'm glad you came," Alex said, his tone softer now. "Me too," I admitted. "It's scary, but good scary." That night, back at his place, I found myself opening up about things I'd kept buried, past heartbreaks, moments when I'd felt alone, even in a crowd. Alex listened without interrupting, his hand finding mine again, a silent promise that I wasn't alone anymore. "Thanks for trusting me," he said quietly. I looked at him, feeling the weight of those words. "I want to. I'm trying." Days later, work threw a curveball my way, an unexpected project that meant longer hours and more stress. I found myself slipping into old habits, pulling away, worried I'd mess everything up with Alex. One evening, after a particularly rough day, I showed up at his door, exhausted and frustrated. He pulled me inside without a word, wrapping me in a hug that felt like a shield against the world. "Talk to me," he said gently. I sighed, feeling the tension release. "I'm scared I'm not enough sometimes, like I'm going to mess this up." Alex shook his head, eyes steady. "You're more than enough. We're in this together." That night we stayed up late, talking, laughing, and reminding each other why this was worth the fight. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. A couple of weeks later, the gym hosted a charity fitness event, and Alex and I signed up as a team. It was chaotic and fun, pushing ourselves in ways we hadn't before. Between rounds, we caught each other's eye, shared grins, and cheered each other on. It felt like more than just a workout. It was a celebration of how far we'd come. Afterward, we collapsed on the grass outside, sweaty and smiling. I said, "I never thought I'd find this kind of connection at a gym." Alex laughed. "Me neither. Guess life's full of surprises." As the sun set behind the city skyline, I realized how much I'd grown, not just physically, but emotionally. With Alex by my side, I was learning to embrace vulnerability, trust, and hope. And honestly, I can't wait to see what's next for us. Because sometimes, the best kind of spotting isn't just about lifting weights. It's about catching each other when we fall and helping each other rise. A few months in, I found myself thinking back to that very first day Alex offered to spot me on the bench press. Who would have thought a simple gesture like that would lead to all this? Not just the workouts or the playlists, but the late night talks, the shared breakfasts, the quiet moments where words weren't necessary because we just got each other. One evening, after a particularly tough workout, we sat on the bench outside the gym catching our breath. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky in soft pinks and oranges. Alex looked over at me, a little smile playing on his lips. He said, "I never really expected to meet someone like you here." I chuckled. "Yeah? Me neither. I thought the gym was just a place to get stronger. Didn't think it'd make me, well, you." He reached out, gently brushing a stray hair behind my ear. "You're more than I ever hoped for." There was a pause, a quiet, comfortable silence where everything felt right. The noise of the city was distant, and for a moment, it was just us. I took his hand, squeezing it lightly. I guess what I'm trying to say is, thanks for spotting me in every way. Alex's smile softened, and he leaned in, his forehead resting against mine. Always. In that simple moment, I felt a kind of calm and certainty you don't often get in life. No grand declarations, no fireworks, just two people who'd found something real, something steady, and something worth holding on to. Walking home that night, hand in hand, I realized that sometimes the best relationships start in the most unexpected places. And sometimes, the best kind of spotting isn't just about catching the barbell when it's too heavy. It's about catching each other when life gets tough and knowing you'll never have to face it alone. And honestly, I wouldn't trade that for anything.